Hello, and welcome back to the Southern Bible Thumper channel. For this upload, we will be reading Numbers chapter 15. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When ye be come into the land of your habitations which I give unto you, and will make an offering by fire unto the Lord, a burnt offering, or a sacrifice in performing a vow, or in a freewill offering, or in your solemn feast to make a sweet savour unto the Lord of the herd or of the flock, then shall he that offereth his offering unto the Lord bring a meat offering of a tenth deal of flour mingled with the fourth part of an hin of oil, and the fourth part of an hin of wine. For a drink offering shalt thou prepare with a burnt offering or sacrifice for one lamb. Or for a ram thou shalt prepare for a meat offering 2 deals of flour mingled with the third part of an hin of oil. And for a drink offering thou shalt offer the third part of an hin of wine for a sweet savour unto the Lord. And when thou preparest a bullock for a burnt offering, or for a sacrifice in performing a vow, or peace offerings unto the Lord, then shall he bring with the bullock a meat offering of 3 deals of flour mingled with half an hin of oil. And thou shalt bring for a drink offering half an hin of wine for an offering made by fire of a sweet savour unto the Lord. Thus shall it be done for one bullock, or for one ram, or for a lamb, or for a kid. According to the number that ye shall prepare, so shall ye do to every one according to their number. All that are born of the country shall do these things after this manner, in offering an offering made by fire of a sweet savour unto the Lord. And if a stranger sojourn with you, or whosoever be among you in your generations, and will offer an offering made by fire of a sweet savour unto the Lord, as ye do, so he shall do. One ordinance shall be both for you of the congregation, and also for the stranger that sojourneth with you, an ordinance forever in your generations. As ye are, so shall the stranger be before the Lord. One law and one manner shall be for you, and for the stranger that sojourneth with you. For the strangers that sojourneth with you. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When ye come into the land whither I bring you, then it shall be that, when ye eat of the bread of the land, ye shall offer up an heave offering unto the Lord. Ye shall offer up a cake of the first of your dough for an heave offering, as ye do the heave offering of the threshing floor, so shall ye heave it. Of the first of your dough ye shall give unto the Lord an heave offering in your generations. And if ye have erred and not observed all these commandments which the Lord hath spoken unto Moses, even all that the Lord hath commanded you by the hand of Moses from the day that the Lord commanded Moses, and henceforward among your generations, then it shall be, if aught be committed by ignorance without the knowledge of the congregation, that all the congregation shall offer one young bullock for a burnt offering, for a sweet savour unto the Lord, with his meat offering and his drink offering, according to the manner, and one kid of the goats for his sin offering. And the priest shall make an atonement for all the congregation of the children of Israel, and it shall be forgiven them, for it is ignorance. And they shall bring their offering, a sacrifice made by fire unto the Lord, and their sin offering before the Lord for their ignorance. And it shall be forgiven all the congregation of the children of Israel, and the stranger that sojourneth among them, seeing all the people were in ignorance. And if any soul sin through ignorance, then he shall bring a she-goat of the first year for a sin offering. And the priest shall make an atonement for the soul that sinneth ignorantly, when he sinneth by ignorance before the Lord, to make an atonement for him, and it shall be forgiven him. Ye shall have one law for him that sinneth through ignorance, both for him that is born among the children of Israel, and for the stranger that sojourneth among them. But the soul that doeth aught presumptuously, whether he be born in the land or a stranger, the same reproacheth the Lord, and that soul shall be cut off from among his people. Because he hath despised the word of the Lord, and hath broken his commandment, that soul shall utterly be cut off, his iniquity shall be upon him. And while the children of Israel were in the wilderness, they found a man that gathered sticks upon the Sabbath day. And they that found him gathering sticks brought him unto Moses and Aaron, and unto all the congregation. And they put him in ward, because it was not declared what should be done to him. And the Lord said to Moses, The man shall be surely put to death. All the congregation shall stone him with stones without the camp. And all the congregation brought him without the camp, and stoned him with stones, and he died, as the Lord commanded Moses. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and bid them that they make them fringes in the borders of their garments throughout their generations, and that they put upon the fringe of the borders a riband of blue. And it shall be unto you for a fringe, that ye may look upon it, and remember all the commandments of the Lord, and do them, and that ye seek not after your own heart and your own eyes, after which ye used to go a whoring, that ye may remember and do all my commandments, and be holy unto your God. I am the Lord your God, which brought you out of the land of Egypt, to be your God. I am the Lord your God. Summarizing Numbers chapter 15. So God commands Israel through Moses that upon entering the new land, they are to make a free will / vow or peace offering. And so when we look at verses 3 and verses 8, so vow, free will, then we look at verse 8, vow, peace. These are all the same. It's the same thing, but there are multiple terms for these different types of offerings. And we covered that in the beginning of Leviticus. So God commands that the Israelites make this type of offering when they enter into the new land. And this type of offering includes a burnt or an animal offering, a meat or grain offering with oil, and a drink offering. The burnt offering animal can be a lamb, a bull, or a ram. And then the oil, the grain or meat, and the drink amounts change with the animals that are used for this oblation. So in verse 4 through 5, a lamb offering requires 2 quarts of flour, 1 quart of olive oil, and 1 quart of wine. Or I'll just say 1 quart of oil because I think I read that it was olive oil, but it's oil. I'll just say with oil because I know for sure it requires oil. So for verses 4 through 5, and well, for all of it, just say oil. Then we have verses 6 through 7. If you use a ram requires 4 quarts of flour, a third gallon of oil, and a third gallon of wine. And then we look at verses 8 through 10. A bull offering requires 6 quarts of flour, 2 quarts of oil, and 2 quarts of wine. Verses 12, I am unclear of what that means, but when I read this again, verse 11 and 12, what I think this is saying, but when I think I have a clue of what it's saying now that I've read it again right now, but in my notes I wrote unclear because I did not understand what 12 was saying. But what I think it's saying when I read this all together is however many animals you offer, the other things that are being offered with it need to correspond with it. So like for a bull, it requires 6 quarts of flour for each bull. So if you sacrifice 10 bulls, then you need to get 60 quarts of flour. That's how I understand it. But, you know, see what one thing that I'm hoping for is like I could be the one to, or maybe I don't want to say I want to be the one because God needs to be the one. But like at some point I could like bounce these ideas off someone. Maybe someone else sees something else or, you know, can point out, oh, you missed that. So that's how you got that message. But I honestly think that would be so much more useful for a Christian like me is knowing, you know, did I miss something? Did you read this and get a different message? But right now it's just me and my family. And that's pretty good because some people don't even have that. So then we hear verse 13 through verse 16. Every native and every visitor should follow the ordinance of making this offering. And then verses 17 through 21, God tells Moses that once they get to the new land, that Israel needs to make a heave offering when they eat. So I'd just like to look up what that means. If that can be fun. So, okay. So what this is saying, a separated portion of an ancient offering that was ceremonially raised and lowered in dedication to God. So that's the definition we have there. because I'm not completely sure what a heave offering is either, and it just, if that's something that has to have the priest involvement. And so, okay, they need to make a heave offering when they eat. So that's what made me think, like, is that it? It would make sense if this is like you pray to God, thank you God for the food, and then you start eating. But if like, but every time before you eat, you have to like do a ceremony with the priest. Uh, that sounds a bit unreasonable, but I wasn't there, so I don't know. But verse 23-21, the first dough should be a heave offering. So, okay. So that makes a little, okay. So the first of your dough give to the Lord as a contribution. So that makes a little bit more sense. So if it's every time you have to eat, but I did skip that. The first dough should be a heave offering. And this idea that the first bread that you get is offered back to God, that should be an ordinance that's kept, a tradition that is kept throughout the generations. Verses 22-29, God outlines how Israel and their visitors are to atone if they do not observe his laws due to ignorance or forgetfulness. So in verse 24, the entire congregation is to offer a burnt offering bull with a meat and a drink offering and a young goat for a sin offering. And then when we look at verses 24-28, this outlines one person who sins through ignorance. If one person alone sins through ignorance, they should take a female goat that is under a year old to the priest to make atonement, and that same law applies to natives or visitors. Verse 30, this outlines willful sin, so presumptuous, purposeful sin. And it's saying whether it's done by a native or a stranger, where a person refuses to, they refuse, they shall be cut off and guilty of sin. So this is the last verse that is responding to sin and detailing ordinances. The very next verse, we're starting a new subject. So a man was gathering sticks on the Sabbath, working, and they, which just says they, put him in custody. So they're waiting for a word from God to tell them how to deal with this man who broke the law. Verse 35, God tells Moses that the man should be stoned to death by the entire congregation. So Israel stoned the man to death. And then in verse 38, God commands a blue banded, some of them say tassels on the corners of the garments. How I read this was I read the King James because that's the physical copy that I have, and I thought this was fringes. Maybe there's a cloth that you have, you cut fringes into the cloth, and then you add a blue band, and that's, you sew that into the hem of your garments, and that's what helps people remember. But some of these translations say tassels and a blue cord. I am curious now, so I'm going to look at the interlinear, which is the closest translation we have to the original composition of the Bible, which isn't written in Hebrew. So we have 38 tassels. So someone decided that the original, well, I don't want to say someone decided, because I just feel like I sound skeptical about every single thing. But when you're reading an ancient text that's been translated multiple times, the person who makes the decision on what words mean when languages don't always cleanly transfer over, it just makes me, I believe in this word, and I've had some personal experiences with God. I know that God is real, and I believe in God, in his word. But sometimes I just wonder how much of the stuff that I read is the way that it was intended to be sent to us. So just a couple of additional things that I have that I wanted to just mention again. Willful disobedience. And it says cut off from people. That's the punishment for being willfully disobedient. And again, I mentioned this in the book of Leviticus, but does being cut off from the people, does this mean emotional issues? Does it mean that there are some mental health issues where you just can't connect to people the other way? Personality disorder? Because if you are willfully disobedient and no one catches you, then how are you going to be cut off from the people? Now, if you get caught, you can get banished because, well, we see uh, in this chapter, they will come and find you. So, okay, so they will come and find you. But if if no one sees you do the wrong thing, then what happens? How do you receive a punishment? So, working on the Sabbath is willful disobedience because God has mentioned multiple times, keep the Sabbath holy. So at this point, everyone knows to keep the Sabbath holy. So uh, that was willful disobedience, but uh, stoned to death was his punishment for gathering sticks. So yeah. One other idea and question that I would like to just mention here. Why does God have a bunch of laws and detailed systems all of a sudden? Well, when we look at Exodus chapter 23, right, God explains that the entire Canaanite way of life must be distinguished because their culture is sinful. And the first thing that God does in Exodus chapter 36 through 40, he establishes a place of worship with customs that must be adhered to, and they're supposed to be kept for generations. Leviticus details codes of conduct and dietary restrictions, and then Numbers, God creates a military presence. All of this is creating culture because what's going to happen is they're going to enter into this new land that has a culture that's been there for years. We have to remember at this point in the Bible, we're on Numbers chapter 15. We are a little bit over 2 years of the Israelites being out of Egypt. So before they got out of Egypt, they were slaves. So their identity was very impacted by what it meant to be an oppressed slave. So they don't have a regular identity, a strong, healthy identity. So God having these laws, having these things that you need to do and traditions you have to keep for these feasts and these celebrations, it's helping to create traditions. And the way that people grow together as a society is to do things together. Every subculture that you can think of, there has to be something greater than that person for everyone to come together. And even if you think about celebrity culture where you have people coming together for a celebrity, it's usually not just for a celebrity. It's the celebrity has had to have done something. They have to have some kind of work, some type of product, and usually that's what people are coming together for, not the celebrity necessarily. I mean, it is the celebrity, but it's because of what they have done on earth is what garners them that type of uh, attention. So to create culture, people have to hold traditions. People have to do things together. And that's how society grows together. Because it's too difficult for people to just get together, decide to put aside their differences to agree and come together. It's just too difficult for any group of people. They can't do it. There has to be a bigger picture. And it sounds silly. And I remember I was talking to this guy one time, and he was telling me, well, if it takes God to make you a moral person, then you're probably just a crappy person. And I just responded like, well, what about the judicial system? Because you have to have laws in place so that people don't attack each other when they're angry. So What do you think that says? Just about everything a person can say about the Bible or about Christianity, all you have to do is turn their attention to the law. I guarantee you, every critique that someone can say about Christianity, even down to the sexual abuse allegations, the how some people are treated differently than others, you could say the same thing about our laws. How in the world can you purchase a house and there are laws protecting the squatters? And listening to these atheists, you would just decide to be homeless because the housing criteria is so crazy that, well, I'm just not going to participate. You can't do that. You can't just not participate in everything in life just because it's unfair or there's some laws that you don't like very much. That was Numbers chapter 15. The next upload will be chapter 16. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day.